Welcome to MMC Conversation Street, a new program that we have started where we're just going to be bringing in a whole lot of different conversations pertaining to the relationship of the congregation within the church. We're going to look at different areas of our lives, areas such as the race relationships. We're going to look at areas such as just family building. We're going to just look at every single part of the church just to build upon a stronger and better church. And today, our whole conversation is based on uh, a remarkable man by the name of Bears Nordia, a man who left us a remarkable legacy within South Africa. And now that the political arena change, the political change came into South Africa, we cannot afford to be complacent in our way of thinking. We too need to make a conscious choice about the road we wish to follow. I read an article that had a description that Charles Villavishenko gave of Bears Nodia in the first shrift, Resistance and Hope, and South African essays in honor of Bears Nodia. This article was written in 1985, and he speaks of Nodia's remarkable ability to strike a balance between his evangelical roots and sense of realism. Villa Vicencio, that's the surname. Villa Vicencio writes that he writes that for Nodia, a person's understanding of scriptures must be tested within a community of people of goodwill, including both Christians and those who care not to be known as such. It must be concretized in relation to ongoing political and economic analysis, and ultimately verified in a deeply personal inner conviction. Nodia is today at once a deeply spiritual and a profoundly secular person. He is a worldly Christian, but one deeply grounded in the very traditional understanding of theological identity. So, this statement speaks volumes into our understanding of the Christian man in a new South Africa. And today, we've got a Christian man in the new South Africa who has uh, basically has been in a journey, and his journey dates back to way I should think way before apartheid and into apartheid, and now he's coming to this into our generation where we can learn more about him. And he's a very good friend of mine, and he's a pal. He's the general, Uncle Norman. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Well, Elvis, before we even start, just to say,
Yeah.
I did pray about this recording for you
Yes.
and for me,
Thank you.
that the Lord would give me the courage and the confidence to say my views about specific questions that you asked,
Yes.
and also to hold me accountable for what I say.
Yes.
So to start off with, I say thank you. Three things. Thank you for the compliments you paid in the preamble to
Yes.
me and your discussion now. Secondly, to say that as we record this, I hope and pray that in some small way, whatever I may say to you now
Yes.
may help you in whatever job or task you have in mind or have to do.
Yes.
And thirdly, to say that I compliment you in your service and work in the service of our Lord. So thank you for being just you. In my preamble, I would like to say a few things. You have asked 7 questions, and I've combined one with another that makes a total of 6.
Mm.
The views that I give are my views,
Yes.
rightly or wrongly. Others may differ from the view that I say. That's their point of view. That's their opinion. That's their right, and they're entitled to it.
That is true.
The other point is that as I discuss, I haven't taken extracts from books, be it political or ideological or whatever. These are my experience on the ground, which I now share in open with you. So having said that, I cut to the chase.
Yes.
And I say, I have 2 foundations on which I discuss today.
Yes.
Firstly, now I serve as a follower of Christ in God's army. Yes, I was a part of the SADF many years ago. I was still then part of God's army, and I still am.
Yes.
My second is that in my military career, we were called to be or instructed to be apolitical, which meant that we were not to be involved in our work situation, in politics or in ideology or any other thing. We would concentrate on training and on instruction and on implementation to make those that we train a better soldier, to save in times of whatever happens. So with that, with my limited knowledge, I take your first question. You asked the first question, how do you determine a community of people with goodwill?
Yes.
Here I'd like to pause for a moment and say, first, the word you. It can refer to me.
Yes.
And it can refer to you, the viewer, as such. So in other words, I have my view, and you, on the other hand, may have yours.
Yes.
And when we look at the community, the word community, we can't say that is somebody else. I am part and parcel of this community. I am integrated in the community. And therefore, what I say, I speak on behalf of myself in the community, not because of what Piet or Chris said about X or Y.
Yes.
It's what I understand they have to say. So when we say that, how do you, I would say basically there are 2 aspects that you need to consider.
Yes.
How? The one is to think, and the other one is to do.
Yes. Yes.
It's easy to think and not so easy to do.
Correct.
So this morning I call a spade. And I say that, how do people influence that community? I would say that by your attitude, by your thinking, and by your actions. Yes, we can all spout the good word. We can all be pious in our actions. But do the actions portray what we really believe? What we really try to achieve to bring about goodwill?
That is true.
And then, what is goodwill? If we look at the word goodwill, it means that we are obedient
Yes.
to certain issues. And in my case, as a follower of Christ, my obedience is to the commands that Jesus gave.
Mm.
And we say, and we glibly say, in most cases, love the Lord your God,
Yes.
but we don't emphasize love the Lord your God,
Mm.
meaning it is your God and it is my God.
Mm.
Do we love that God? And have we told him?
Mm.
Yes, God has proclaimed his love to us in so many ways. Have we reciprocated by saying and affirming that we love him? The second one, which is for me a very important one, is the second command, love your neighbor.
Yes.
This is part of our community. And when we look at the neighbor, the word neighbor, folks think it's the guy next door. That's my neighbor.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the bloody story.
Yes.
But it's not quite right. Neighbor for me is anyone that comes into contact with you in whatever field there is, and who has an association with you also in whatever field there is. So when we analyze the two commands and say, how can we bring goodwill to a community? We need to bear in mind, I'm part of it.
Yes.
Secondly, what do I obey?
Mm.
Do I obey the norms of the world at this point in time? Do I obey the teachings of the world and follow their example at this point in time? Or do I follow scripture and the commands of Jesus?
Yes.
What is the first and second command is a command. It's not a request.
Mm.
Jesus didn't say, Elvis, when you are not tired, will you love your neighbor? He didn't say, Elvis, when you have time, be kind to your neighbor.
Yes.
Jesus gave a command, and a command is to do.
Yes.
And that's my thought this morning, revolving around what do we, as followers of Christ, do to influence the community's goodwill?
Mm.
Not that what we preach, not that what we say good words to somebody, it's what we do in practice that counts. So as I look at this, I say to myself, we have to set,
Yes.
those who are followers of Christ need to set the example.
True.
Now, against what do we evaluate ourselves when we set the example?
Yeah.
We evaluate the example that Jesus set for us as recorded in Scripture. There's no gray area. Jesus said, you either do this or you do that.
Yes.
You either, this is black and that's white, but it's not between the two.
Mm.
So for me, it is what we do in our example. So to sum up what I've now just said, this change in our attitude and thinking and doing is a mindset.
Mm.
It's a choice. You have a choice, and so do I.
Yes.
You can say yes, or you can say no, but you have a choice. And God doesn't force you to make a choice. He says, Norman, here is my guidelines. Here is my ruling. Here is my command. Just do it. Don't argue about the case.
Mm.
I have told you what to do. Now go ahead. So for me, it's a question of testing yourself and analyzing your own self-examination in terms of what am I doing as a follower of Christ to influence the community at large? Am I doing nothing? Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then bugger what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Am I doing something? It doesn't matter how big or small that something may be.
Yes.
It is something that adds value to our lifestyle, to the example we set to others,
Yes.
to the thinking and the words that we use for others. When you came to the second question,
Wait,
you
say,
asked,
so if we look at
what do
it,
you, sorry?
I'm saying, yeah, so with the second question, which says, if we're looking at today's society, do you think we do give people, especially the black and the brown people, the label of a community of people with goodwill?
Yeah,
Mm,
I've answered this question, and it's a very valid question, and
mm,
it's a very good question.
mm.
And I think all the viewers need to answer that for themselves.
Yes.
Just to say, do you do that?
Mm, mm.
And how the heck do you now not do that? So let me give you a couple of examples on this.
Yes.
I think that the answer on one side is to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a double-edged sword, but it applies both to white and to black
Yes.
and brown.
Yes.
It's a reciprocal action. Do whites label the blacks?
Yes.
Yes. I will admit and I will advocate that there is progress.
Yes.
And progress has been made in this particular field.
Yes.
When we look at the blacks, yes, there's also from their side progress made towards the whites in labeling the whites as the super privileged and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is that there's a long, long way still to go.
Yes.
Why do I say that? And here is the question that hinges on question 2. Why? Why do you label the whites a black with a certain name?
Yes.
Why do the blacks resent
Mm.
and label us, the whites, in another name?
Yes.
And it goes deeper than that because we're then looking at a deep-seated animosity caused by hatred on the one hand, fear on the other, and racism on the other.
Yes.
But if we combine the various items of why we do that, are we each taking a sincere effort to eradicate that from our curriculum, from our vocabulary, from our lifestyle, whatever? And again, the choice is, are you? And if not, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So just to give one or two examples. In the racism side, yes, there has been progress. Do the whites still exercise racism? Yes.
True.
Perhaps not to the same degree as in the past, but still. And just as an example, without becoming politically minded or discussions, we refer to blacks from time to time, and I've heard this in company and in one-to-one, where whites have referred to blacks as black, which is not on.
Yes.
They refer to blacks as houtkopper, which is also for me an offensive term. And they refer to sometimes to the group of blacks as our green people. In other words, they're not saying it's black, but they are referring to the black.
Yes.
These are words that we say. Now, maybe words don't destroy a building. They don't cause bricks to collapse and windows to open.
Yes.
But words hurt.
That is true.
And that's the danger of racism. That when I call somebody by that name, then that's a problem. When they refer to us as whites, oh, the privileged class, oh, the ones who have everything, the ones who have got everything. There are many twists and turns in those statements. I'm just saying that this is one of the causes of the deep hatred. It's one of the causes of us not having the same goodwill feeling towards each other. It's because of what we say.
Yes.
Sometimes we say it in a joke.
Yes.
Sometimes we are serious about what we say. For example, oh, you can't ride on the R21 today. Why? Oh, because the Uitkoppe have now blocked the 21 because they want to say, prove their point about OR.
Yes, yes.
Oh, no, you can't go to the Tshwane Council chambers today. Why? No, the blacks are protesting against asking for a 10% increase in wages. Yes, we say that. But rather than to put it in a diplomatic term, we use these hard words. And those hard words stick like hell. They stick like glue.
Yes.
And they cause resentment. And resentment takes time and effort to eradicate. So on that score, yes, I will say that we have made progress. But Elvis, there is a long way to go.
That is true.
And as we try and convince ourselves by God's grace, so we set the example for others to follow whatever footsteps we plant. And that's not an easy job. You get discrimination, you get ostracization because people say, "Oh, he's a blackie, he's one of the others. Oh, he loves those guys, but he can't understand why." So yes, there is a long way to go. Then I think if we can go to question 3.
Do you, or the one that says, do you think that the effects of apartheid affected the way we as South Africans think towards each other?
Okay, that is fine. It links to a certain degree to question 1 and question 2.
Yes.
So I don't wish to repeat both what I said in 1 and 2, but rather to add one or other comments.
Yes.
When we look at apartheid, we are then entering into an ideological field. Yes. And this I don't want to do. But I can say what we think towards each other bears fruit. If we think that God only loves us, and I would like to clarify one point. Many folk, and the Reverend Trevor Hudson said this about 2 years ago in a video play that he was presenting from Benoni.
Yes.
He said there are many folk who are Christian, but who are not followers of Christ. Okay. That's a fact. He said, on the other hand, if you are a follower of Christ, you are a Christian first and foremost. Otherwise, you can't be. So from a Christian perspective, looking at question 3, what are the effects of apartheid? I would say, in the first place, it is a deep-seated resentment. And it's ingrained. It's passed on from your generation to my generation to others, my father's generation to me, his father to him. And how do we get rid of it? It's the thinking that needs to change.
Okay.
is not to put on a new shirt or to wear modern shoes. It is to change our thought process along the line. When we say, yeah, but just give me one example then of this deep-suited discrimination or apartheid story. Then I say, fine. At the present moment, as far as whites are concerned, they are faced with this land claim grab scheme or problem areas, which is already going to courts and so forth and so on, where tribal leaders have said, this is our ground. This was passed on to me by X or Y. How do they prove it? That's another story. And we say, no, it's mine. I have a registration document from the deeds office. I have payment in kind. I can show you that. So it's mine, yet you want to take it from me. You take the other side of the coin. I know, for example, in District 6 in Cape Town,
yes,
how they were forcibly removed, the Malay and the colored areas,
yes,
into another settlement. They had lived there for ages. Some of the children had been born there, yet they had to move. So that this could be revented and regenerated and whatever. The fact that you as a child was uprooted, then I say, come on, how would you feel if you were in those shoes? When the lorries came to load your furniture and you had to say goodbye to your home after many years. So my point is, it's a deep-rooted, and it sticks. And unless we show by example and by practice that is now past, we have forgiven. Yes, we may not always forget, but we have forgiven, and we together moving forward in unity. And until we adopt that attitude, we're not going to be successful at all.
That is true.
So we also hear of the Court of Reconciliation. That was a good move. It had its ups and downs, but I think it had a positive spin-off. Does everybody believe what was said? Some do, some don't. But that's your opinion. You can believe or you can't. So yes, on both sides of the coin, the effects of apartheid are traumatic and they are deeply ingrained. And you and I can't undo the ingrained.
Yes.
That happened so many years ago.
Yes.
But what we can do is in our move forward to walk together, linking hands or linking arms and saying, we are one. And I'm talking about one being the followers of Christ.
Yes.
And that we can then make a difference in our attitude towards each other. Okay, if we go to the next one.
What do you think we can do as South African Christians to start undoing the way in which we view each other?
We have already discussed many of the related problems,
yes,
which apartheid has brought in our way.
Yes.
It again hinges down to what are we doing or what are we not doing? And as I refer to myself as a follower of Christ, what am I doing? Yes, it may be very small. I'm not in the hierarchy of the church. I'm not a leader in the church, and therefore whatever I say doesn't count or doesn't have the weight that others have.
Yes.
But what can I do? I can try and influence those who are serving, those to follow the example I try and set, and say, here is an example of a guy, an ordinary public guy, who is doing his best to eliminate this feeling that we have for one another.
Yes.
So if we're going to look at undoing, it's not a question of pointing a finger and saying, Elvis, what are you doing?
Yes.
It's a question of pointing the finger back at you, at me, that I must ask myself, what am I doing? Am I portraying Christ with his love and compassion, with his empathy, with his help? Do I now support those who are in need? Do I help them? And if I do that, what is my motive for doing this? Is my motive to try and eliminate the view that we have for each other an ego one? Is it one to acquire status?
Yes.
Or power? Or popularity? Or is it just because I serve God as a follower of him?
Yes.
And that is my view, that if we then, as followers of Christ, adopt the view that we are subservient and trustworthy servants of the Most High, and we do whatever we do in his name, by his strength, and to bring honor and glory and praise to God and to no one else.
Yes.
So if we look at that, then we say we are making progress.
Yes.
But the example must be for all of us to follow. We can't just say, oh, we've got 3 people in our church who do this, and the other 97 do the other thing. We need all. So in a nutshell, yes, we are doing progress, but no, we are still a long way. So to end, it is a positive, and it's a good thing that we are already on the road. But we need to maintain this positive attitude at all times. If I then combine your last question,
yes,
how do you strike a balance between religion and realism?
Yes.
First of all, we need to say that we need to lead.
Yes.
You and I, as followers of Christ, need to lead. Are we? Do you look at yourself and say, what am I doing?
Yeah.
How effective is that which I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Helpful towards others, helpful to bridge the gap between realism and religion? Or are we then just sitting in the pew and listening to the word being preached because it is a subject and a topic that we like to hear?
Yes.
Or is it what, and I'll combine the last question with this as well, or is it that combination that we preach whoever is preaching, wherever that preaching takes place, the truth of the gospel, irrespective of whether the people feel comfortable or uncomfortable in their pews hearing that word? We get to the the basic difference between what is realism and what is religion. Religion, yes, is serving God in his strength to the best of our ability. Realism is not to forget and say, oh, that's happened in the past. Oh, it will change. Oh, just give everybody time and the memories will fade. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
We have to be physically active in different spheres to help the process to move forward. And until we do that, until we get out of our comfort zone, out of our thinking comfort zone, out of our thinking talking zone, and apply what we know we should apply,
Yes.
there is a problem. So the first point we need to admit to ourselves in this balance. Does God love only me, the white, or does he love the black and brown equally as well? And if we say yes, then we say, well, if God so loves us, why don't we, in our Christian walk, apply the agape love to each other? Yes, we don't have to live in each other's home, but we can tolerate and we can express our views with love and our thoughts. So that, and in terms of scripture, and the greatest of these, faith, hope, and love. And love is the greatest one. So if we don't follow that as our teaching, how can we hope that others will follow us and that we in turn can make a difference? So, Elvis, it is the love of God flowing in us that makes the change. But we have to admit that we are not perfect.
That is true.
We have to admit, not only to one another, but we have to admit to God. And he already knows it, but we haven't admitted it. We haven't confessed that we have sinned. He's forgiven the past. But what about today? What about the thoughts that I have today? Are they valid thoughts? Are they positive thoughts? Or whatever are they? So if we don't start with ourselves in a small way, we can't help to push against this impossible war. And unless we break the war, we're not going to achieve the balance between religion and realism. We are one and one together. As our president always says, we are united in our struggle against Corona. Are we united in our struggle against these aspects of apartheid thoughts, of the deep grain thoughts, of forgiveness, etc.? So for me, the questions that you have asked are valid. They are, in a nutshell, soul-searching questions. And it's not questions that you can take from a book or from a reading material. It is questions which you yourself analyze for yourself and apply in your own life, first of all, to yourself, and then to others. So, Elvis, I just pray that as you present this to others, that you'll ask them, and what do you think? That they in turn say, well, I've heard X, but what do I think? Do I agree with X? Perhaps some, not all. And what then do I agree to? So unless we examine ourselves and we call a spade, and we call whatever it is by name, we don't give it another name, and we don't shy from doing whatever God has called us to do, So, Elvis, if I've helped you in any small way, I feel blessed, and I hope that this will bless others as well. En met daai woorde sê ek vir jou baie dankie, Pel. Dankie vir die moeite. Dankie vir die ondersteuning. Dankie vir alles wat jy doen. And God bless you.
That's a pleasure, my pal. And yeah, we shall continue in more conversations like this. And the whole idea to this is that we just want to build an understanding and help each other to grow together, so that, because the problem is a lot of us come together to a conclusion because of assumption, and yet we can learn from each other and get to know what your background is with a certain topic and what my background is with that topic, and as we speak together we get to understand. So thank you very much, Uncle Norman, and may the good Lord bless you as we will do another episode of this topic, a lot of these different topics. And thank you very much, Uncle Norman. Be blessed.
God bless you.
God bless you too.